Hello, Moorings Park, and welcome to another episode of Talking Wellness, your favorite health and wellness related talk show for the week of June 22nd. I'm your host, Robert Sorensen, and today my co-host is going to be a fellow Wellness Department staff member, exercise specialist, Ashley Sorensen. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Our topic of the week this week is going to be something very near and dear to both of us. That topic is picky eating. It's a unique topic, not something that I ever thought that I'd find myself chatting about.
No.
But here we are today. Just to give you a general overview of our show on the topic of picky eating, we're going to break down what it is. We're going to share some personal experience with it, why we're the best two people to chat about it. We're going to talk about why we do it. We're going to talk about working around it because these picky eating habits are not necessarily the most healthful things to have in our lives. And we're going to wrap up with talking about how to change some of those poor habits. So, picky eating, what is it? Picky eating can be a number of things. I know to me when I hear that term, I think first and foremost that it's being stuck in your old ways and just eating what you're used to eating.
Yeah, I think it's something that you try and eat something over and over again and you just won't do it anymore. Like you can't get into it.
I think watching TV shows where there's children involved that go to old adage of you can't leave the table until you eat your vegetables.
Yes. I've heard that a million times growing up.
So you're saying you're guilty of this?
I was when I was a lot younger, and then I think because my mom put me through that, I became more of a veggie and fruit eater.
Okay.
She got to me.
So you were broke.
Yes.
Yeah.
She got it. She got it.
So there's a lot of risks involved if you don't happen to break those habits, especially into the older age. I think the most prominent risk associated with picky eating habits is inadequate nutrition.
Yep.
I have a friend's mother who is in her 70s at this point, and she never broke these habits. And I know whenever they go out to eat, they'll recount how their mom always still orders off of the appetizer area, which appetizers are delicious, don't get me wrong.
Anything fried on there is delicious.
Yeah, I like mozzarella sticks as much as the next person.
Potato skins.
But I'm also not going to eat those things for dinner 7 nights out of the week. As when you go, it's a very fat-heavy diet, saturated fats. You're not getting your fruits. You're not getting your vegetables. And when we talk about health and wellness as we do, it's going to influence performance in the gym, sleeping patterns, a whole host of things, higher risk for diabetes, and associated comorbidities. So what's your personal experience with picky eating?
Just picky eating. So I've got a lot of experience with picky eating. One of the biggest things to this day is that I do not eat pork. The only pork I eat is bacon, and it has to be crispy bacon. If there's fat on it, I will peel it off. And pork chops, pulled pork, like barbecue pulled pork, I will not do it.
Is there a reason why? I know some even religions view pigs as being dirty animals, so they're not eaten.
Yeah, it's not a religious thing. It's just I don't like fat on any kind of like meat. Mm-hmm. Growing up, I never touched chicken. I refused to touch chicken until I came to college, and I was forced to touch chicken, and I would dissect it and get everything off of it. And I still do it to this day. I hate buying like thick chicken, like the chicken breast, because there's too much to cut off. And then with the pork, I feel like there's a lot of fat on it, or at least from when I was forced to eat it when I was younger, or at least try it, I couldn't do it. There's too much fat. I would taste it, and it just wouldn't be a good experience at all.
So jumping ahead a little bit in our discussion, I referenced that we're going to talk about why we do it. And we've already heard it shared by both of us 5 minutes into the show, is referencing younger age. And most picky eating habits do develop in childhood and are caused by the reinforcement from our parents and just how we respond to the encouragement or the over-encouragement of getting them for us to eat certain things. And depending on how we handle that reinforcement as an individual is how we change over time. So we can see in Ashley's situation, she was able to adapt a little bit to the chicken circumstance. She did find a way that makes it work for her. Pork, we're still working on.
It's not happening. Not happening.
Well, we'll have a Talking Wellness episode 7,343
Yep.
in the year 2052, where Ashley's favorite food is pork chops.
Nope, not happening.
So aside from not eating pork, is there anything else that you enjoy or do not enjoy?
What is it? There's a couple of other things. Seafood is something that I just recently started eating. I started with mahi because everybody's like, it tastes just like chicken, and it really does. And then it kind of like falls apart pretty easily, so there's not a lot of fat, so that's not an issue. And then maybe within the last year, I started eating shrimp. I started with fried shrimp, not the healthiest, but I've overcome that and started with grilled shrimp. I have to make it myself though. I don't trust it from a restaurant yet because I don't know if it's gonna be seasoned right, cooked right. I'm too picky on it. So yeah, and then I tried a piece of snapper a couple weeks ago. I was given it, and then I was shown that there was a piece of like the skin on it, the scales. I don't know if I'm gonna eat it again, knowing that was on there, but it really didn't taste bad. So I just have to get out of my head on that one.
And seafood can be a tough one. I know even interacting with our residents, one thing that I really enjoy is any sort of raw fish, sushi.
You do enjoy
I
it?
love sushi. I would eat it every single night of the week if I could. But just in casual conversation with our residents, I know a number of them didn't grow up with it. They never engaged with sushi as a child. It's something that's really become more prominent over the last maybe decade or so. And because of that, they're having a hard time introducing it into their diet. They just don't understand why people would want to eat this way.
Sometimes it's a texture thing for me. I've grown up saying that. Like, I don't like applesauce because of the texture. I don't like sushi because of the texture. Whatever's in it. I know there's many different ways you can prepare sushi, but if there's anything raw in it, no way.
Yeah, and sushi is definitely the number one offender for texture because you're running from eel, squid, tuna, shrimp, crab. Every single one of those has a completely different mouthfeel. And mouthfeel definitely is our first form of contact with something. So if we don't like that feel with it in our mouth, our brain is gonna receive that as we don't like the taste.
Yeah.
So it's all interconnected. For me personally, most picky eating habits I have since broken. As a child, I was a little bit of a pickier eater. I remember not wanting to ever touch tomatoes, but I would have ketchup. So through that exposure to ketchup, I eventually learned to like tomatoes. Now it's one of my favorite things to eat.
Are you okay with like chunky tomato sauce?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at this point.
Because that bothers me.
Once upon a time, I would have been giving you a different answer,
Yeah.
but I've slowly grown to accept it, and I enjoy it. And I know on a previous episode of Talking Wellness, I spoke about some of my other weird diet habits that I've had, like only eating cereal for a couple years. but that was really because that's what I felt was good for me at the time to help me lose weight.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, well, it was the Special K diet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Special K diet, and it works. It might not be healthful, but here I am to tell the tale.
Yeah.
So we've both had some personal experiences with it. We've seen how Ashley is still in the position of changing. I have changed a good portion of my picky eating habits. At this point in time, if I were to consider any type of food out there, there's very, very few of them that I would not eat.
Okay.
Some of those, the more outlandish, untraditional Americanized or American foods, if you're looking at like head cheese or like olive loaf, that sort of thing, I'm not going to really go for it. I'll eat it, but it's not my favorite thing in the world. So we spoke on how a number of these habits start in childhood. Where we're forced into adapting or not adapting. And then there's also changes in health that may force us into different diet habits. Especially with this population, the older that we get, the different way our digestive system works. So things that we may have once loved and cherished, we might not be able to eat anymore. And I don't know if you would call it picky eating, but we go to the opposite of that, where we're forced to eat something different. Leafy greens, for example, get harder to digest. Broccoli, root vegetables, there are a number of different health conditions that make it impossible to eat those. If you become gluten sensitive, that about wipes out any form of bread or...
No more pizza.
No more pizza. No more cakes, no more desserts.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. Fortunately now there are a number of gluten-sensitive alternatives, but again, take it back 20 years ago or so, that wasn't a thing.
No.
I had my own experience being misdiagnosed as when I was about 10 years old, where I spent about 2 years not eating wheat.
Oh, wow.
And at that point in time, you know what the doctor told me?
What?
He told me, rice is your friend. So all I ate as an alternative to anything with wheat in it was rice.
Regular, like white rice or
White
brown
rice. White rice.
Wow.
And you look in the literature now, and it's avoid white rice, it's brown rice, it's whole grain rice. So very interesting. You get pigeonholed almost into certain eating habits, whether or not you want to.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk now about working around some of these habits.
Yes.
And again, we've already shared some of our experience, segueing into breaking those habits by starting small, and those small changes eventually become big changes. In Ashley's situation, shrimp.
So I started with it fried because I figured that would be the best tasting way, because I'm used to fried food like chicken and stuff like that. It's not my favorite. I don't eat fried chicken every day. But I figured if there's like that outer layer kind of hiding the actual flavor or the texture of the shrimp, I can do it. And then actually dipping it into any kind of sauce. I don't like tartar sauce, but if they have kind of like the like a salsa type of sauce.
Now, why don't you like tartar sauce?
The taste. I don't like.
Taste is different than pickiness.
It's an intense flavor. Not a lot of people like it. It's a hit or miss, I feel. I've heard a lot of
privileged.
Yeah. But yeah, with the shrimp, flavoring was everything. I like to put, when I started eating it grilled, just loaded it up with any kind of flavor. What is it? The Everglades heat seasoning.
That is a good one.
That's good. I'll put that on chicken, anything. So because I knew I liked that, I was like, oh, let me try it on here with some like pepper on top of it too. And I kept trying it that way, and it worked.
So there is a universal law that's really unstated that says if it's fried, it's going to taste good.
Oh, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that is the law that Ashley abided by
Yes.
to segue into eating shrimp.
Yeah.
I shared my own experience. I didn't like tomatoes in any way, shape, or form. Started with it in ketchup. You dip your French fries in it. Again, fried, tastes good. Bring the ketchup on board. Soon enough, I was eating tomatoes on burgers, and now I'll just eat grape tomatoes whole on their own or slices of tomatoes.
Have you ever put salt on your tomato
Oh,
when you're
yeah.
starting to try it? Because that like enhances the flavor of it. I like that a lot. I think
That-
that's huge.
That's another great suggestion. If you find yourself still with a picky eating habit that you can't break, find spices that are really complemented
Or even
well.
sauces like stir fry sauce or teriyaki sauce. I know can get a lot of people to eat like broccoli. What are they? The snap peas too, which can be pretty bitter. And I know that a lot of people don't like bitter tasting things, but I've seen and heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, I didn't like it until I added this to it."
Right.
Or even cheese. You can't go wrong with cheese in moderation.
So you kind of need to test around a little bit. Try not to discredit any food entirely. You just might not have found the right way to try it that works for you. If you do have any picky eating habits or foods that you just try to avoid, we do want to hear about them. You're free to email us at moringsparkwellness@gmail.com. Email us your picky eating habits, and we'd be happy to respond and give some suggestions on how to potentially break them. I know another one for me was sweet potatoes. Now one of my very favorite foods in the world. But when I was younger, I was a white potato guy. Like it was so much better either mashed or just with butter on it. But it wasn't until I found that if you took a sweet potato, you put a little bit of cinnamon on it. That
Game
just
changer.
exactly
Game changer.
hit the spot, and I've never looked back.
I have a sweet potato story as well.
Oh,
My mom likes them. My dad doesn't. My dad's a picky eater. I think that's where I got it from. That makes sense. And so my mom would always try and like force us to try everything, even just a bite. And I tried a sweet potato. I don't remember what exactly happened, but I kind of like choked on it, I think. I don't know if it was from the flavor or maybe it went down the wrong way. But since then, I did not eat sweet potatoes for the longest time because I had that reaction.
traumatic experience. I know that sounds silly, a traumatic experience with food, but it's true.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone knows someone, whether it's a family member or a friend or just somebody that you've crossed paths with, who is probably choked while eating mozzarella cheese on
Yes.
pizza or in pasta. And some of those people may just be completely turned off by it. I know my sister had that experience.
Okay.
I remember as a child, she choking on the mozzarella cheese at a restaurant, stood up, went behind the chair, and self-Heimlicked
Wow.
it out of her. But to this day, not the biggest fan of pizza.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
She's missing out.
maybe. Some would say, some may not.
Yeah, true.
So we can make some small changes initially, whether you're coating it with breadcrumbs or different spices, different sauces. There's also suggestions to find different forms of it so that you don't lose that nutritional value that's in a lot of these certain foods that we don't eat. So by different forms, I mean maybe we turn to soups, maybe we turn to smoothies. There's a number of people who are doing like these juice cleanses now.
Yeah.
I don't know all too much about it, but it's a great way to get your green vegetables and not be hunking down on this massive salad. So you might be somebody who doesn't like to eat salad, but you can still incorporate all of those different nutrients and micronutrients into your diet through a smoothie or a juice.
It's a good way to hide like spinach too, the taste of spinach. Not everybody likes it. I'm okay with it. But yeah, with added fruits and everything, and if you put just a little bit of spinach, you're still getting the nutrients from the spinach. It's just being overpowered by the fruit.
Yep. I know I'm guilty of that. I love vegetables, but I will not eat spinach during the working day because of the grittiness feeling that it leaves on your teeth. I will only eat it at home in the evening when immediately after I can go to the bathroom and brush my teeth.
Okay.
I have a toothbrush in my office. I carry one in my car. I've got one just about everywhere that I am. But I need immediate relief from that gritty feeling. So that's one of my picky eating habits, is that I'll only eat something at home, close to
Okay.
my own personal toothbrush. I know we have a coworker in our department who's not the biggest fruit and vegetable fan.
No.
So the way that she incorporates hers into her daily lunch is through soup.
Yep.
There's some hidden problems with having soup every day at lunch, primarily sodium.
A lot of sodium.
A lot of sodium, potentially hypertensive.
Yes.
But it will hopefully act as a segue for her to transition into eating actual vegetables.
We hope.
Yeah. So if you want to know who that coworker is, you email us at moringsparkwellness@gmail.com. We'll spill the beans and you can help us transform her into a fruit and vegetable eater. So Ashley, is there anything else related to picky eating habits in your experience or in your experience of others?
I'm trying to think.
This is the
What
moment of the
else?
show that we call Last Rites.
Last rites. Let's see. I made a whole list of things that I really don't like or won't eat or won't touch.
Give us the rundown. Give us the top five things that you won't eat.
Okay. Pork, we already talked about. I don't like mushrooms. What else is there? Oh, one weird thing that I do, it's the second thing on my list, is that I eat one thing at a time on my plate.
So Ashley shared that with me about 4 or 5 days ago, and ever since then, every meal that I've sat down to eat, as I've portioned out, I've looked at it and wondered, what would it be like to only be able to complete one section at a time and not cross-contaminate foods? And it blew my mind.
I'll let it touch. It can touch. I will make things in like a rice bowl. That's fine. But if it's certain things, like if I have a piece of chicken, a sweet potato on my plate, and then maybe just some broccoli, I will eat the chicken first. Then I will most likely eat the potato and then the broccoli. I don't know where that came from. My mom thinks it was super strange, but apparently a couple of my cousins do it as well. So my mom's blaming my grandma because she watched us for our first 2 years. And so she thinks that that's probably where it came from.
Do you think this is a habit that you could change?
Probably not. I've gone 26 years, give or take, of doing that.
Well, we're going to lay down the challenge here and today.
Okay.
That we're going to circle back to this. Next time that we have Ashley on the show, we're going to check in on her picky eating habit and see if she's made any positive change. And the way that I'm going to suggest that she tries to incorporate this positive change is start by doing it with things that are very easy to mix together.
Okay.
So maybe it's not like that platter of food where, for example, you have Thanksgiving dinner and you have the cranberries, mashed potatoes, chicken, 1, 2, 3, but things that are really cohesive.
Okay.
Like if you're having a bowl of oatmeal, don't scrape all the berries off the top and then eat the
I
oatmeal
don't
down
do
below.
that. It's not that extreme.
Stay tuned, we'll get more details. We do have a question of the week to begin our wind down of the day. And that is, what is one guilty pleasure or habit, food related, that you can't and you simply will not give up?
Pizza. Pizza is mine.
Ashley knows I'm not a big fan of pizza. It doesn't do it for me. But I want to know what is it about pizza that makes it that you will not quit it?
There's so many different ways that pizza is made, and there's so many different places to try. I just want to try all different places, all different pizza. I went to Italy a couple years ago, got a whole new experience of pizza, and I just love a good pepperoni pizza. Cheese is fine too, but I am a little picky on the toppings. I grew up eating it. It's just, there's something about bread, cheese, and sauce that I can't get
I
away
think
from.
they call that umami,
Umami.
I
Isn't
believe
that
so.
like the
or maybe
bitterness?
it might be unga pachka,
Okay, yeah, I don't know that one.
one or the other. But I think that's a good suggestion to all of our viewers today, is that everything has a different taste, especially when mixed together. So try that again. Use that as an influence to try to break some of those picky eating habits. Incorporate better nutrition into your diet. Live a healthier, longer, more successful life. My habit that I've been trying to break this for years. It doesn't happen. It hasn't so far. I don't know if it ever will. Is that I need to slow down. When I sit down for a meal, I'm like a shark in infested waters. There's chum in the water. I'm swirling around. I'm inhaling. I don't even breathe in between bites.
I do the same thing.
And I think that it's going to create problems down the road for both of us then.
Yes.
It's not good to swallow an entire carrot at once.
No. Yeah.
So maybe it's something that we can reinforce on each other to try to break that habit. Because there is nothing good that comes out of eating quickly or inhaling your food as fast as possible.
I do it mostly when I'm eating some kind of like sandwich or burger, something that's messy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want to put it down and then cause a bigger mess. So I just go for it. And,
All in.
yeah. Don't look back.
So if you go all in on food and you're a shark in infested water also, email us. Let us know. moringsparkwellness@gmail.com. Well, I want to thank you, Ashley, for joining us today.
Thank you.
This has been your episode of Talking Wellness for the week of June 22nd. You're either catching us on Monday at 10 o'clock or Friday at 10 o'clock. Whatever it happens to be, we'll be back on that same schedule next time around with a new co-host or perhaps a pair of co-hosts with a brand new health and wellness related topic. But until then, I'm Robert Sorensen.
I'm Ashley Sorensen.
Be well, Morings Park.